Greetings from Goblin Valley, Norway, fellow vapors. I'm making this video today to show you a new coil and how to build it. It's going to be a bit sciencey to explain why I think this coil is so great for some of us. As you probably hear, English is not my first language, but I'll try to do my best. And this is also one of my first video attempts. So excuse me if the quality is very poor, but I'll do my best. So this coil is not a discovery per se. It's been around in variations, but I've taken it to the extreme, and when you do that's where it really shines. And if you do, if you have a regulated mod with the preheat function, this video is probably not for you. Although it will save you a lot of battery power and e-juice by building it and using it. But this is primarily for you guys and girls who uses mech mods and voltage regulated mods without the preheat function. So I'll show you how to build a coil that's very efficient, that produces a lot of flavor and vapor, and just as much as a very complicated clapton, but it's still very efficient and very fast. I'll show you in just a sec what I'm talking about, and then we go to the build section and I'll show you how to make it with very simple tools. I wanted a coil with just as much surface area, but who were a lot faster, so I went a step further and started building these guys. They look like big fat coils, but the secret is when you turn them on the side. Let me see, like this, and you see how thin they are. So if you compare this one with, say, a coil like this, the difference in thickness is very obvious, but the weight in metal is only half. No, excuse me, a quarter. So this clapton coil is 4 times as heavy as the other one, but the surface area is basically the same, and the ohm resistance is also comparable. So I'll show you how to make this. I call it the flat coil. I use 20 gauge or 22 gauge wire. I get it down to 0.2 millimeters in thickness, and the width of 20 gauge wire will be something like 2.1 millimeters and only 0.2 millimeters thick. I think this is a 22. It's better for series mech mods. If you have a clapton coil, like so, the clapton coil is typically more like this. So although the inner diameter might be 3.5 millimeters, but the outside diameter very quickly turns up to like 5.7 millimeters. So the argument for the clapton users is that this part is saturated with juice. Well, actually it isn't. But except for the first time you drip it with juice. So I think this most of this metal doesn't do anything for your vapor. I think it's the width of the cylinder in contact with the cotton that makes the vapor, that this part is so big. So with this flat wire you can go up to 5 millimeter in diameter, and instead of all this metal, you have this stuffed with cotton filled with juice. And cotton is a better wick to use than steel mesh, like you find in the clapton coil. So I think the more cotton and the more juice you get inside, and still maintaining just as much contact, or here of course even more, and with a lot less metal to heat up or cool down, you get a much more efficient coil. Now these are basically the tools you are going to need. The torch is not strictly necessary, but you need those for your ears most definitely, and you need a hard piece of steel, a block of steel or an anvil like this one. You need of course a tiny piece of wire, and regarding the hammers, you will need a flat one like this one with a flat head, and you will need a hammer that has a slightly curvature to the head. Do not use the round ones, but you would very much like to have a slightly curved surface to the hammer head in order to spread the metal. And this is just a simple small jeweler's hammer. You can get it anywhere. Now the first part is actually very simple. It's just to take 3 or 4 passes with the big hammer, and in order just to make it flat. The wire will not get very wide until you use the hammer that spreads the metal, but in order to have a nice first surface to work on, you need a wire to be flat in some sort. So just a couple of passes with this hammer and we'll see how it goes. So now it's I think it's flat enough for more work. So what you do then is to take this hammer that is slightly curved and and you spread the metal further to make it thinner. Now, at this part, a lot of people just panic because you see it twists in every kind of direction, and that is because of the widening of the metal. It curves and bends. So here is what you shouldn't do. Never try to bend it. Everything has to be hammered in order to get this wire wide and straight again. So luckily for me, my girlfriend has a lot of jewelry making experience, and she taught me some of the principles. So if the wire curves this way, obviously you hammer it from the other side to make it straight that way. And if your wire curves this side, you hammer it on that side and not on that side. I'll draw you a picture afterwards. But the direction from where the hammer comes make the wire bend the right way again. So never try to bend or force the wire into position. Only use the hammer. As you saw, there is no bending of the wire, and it's just hammered. Once it gets crooked, you just hammer it straight. I could have done a slightly better job than this, but if it's bulky or uneven in some places, it doesn't really matter, as long as you have a thickness of approximately 0.2 millimeters. You don't need to measure it. It's just the limitations of the metal. You just feel when it's as thin as it's going to get, and of course it gets brittle when you do this. So you will have to. Well, it's an advantage to fire it and glow it with a torch. So we'll do that next, and take it from there. And just to show you the measurements, let's see. Oops. This is 0.15 millimeters in thickness, and the width is, let me see, 1.8 millimeters. And of course there is nowhere you can buy a wire like this. now I have this coil at 0.5 ohms on a series mech mod with two 26650 batteries, so it's not the fastest mech mod out there. But let's count the time before this coil starts to glow, put on this mech mod. That was about 0.8 seconds. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi. So that one goes off in 6 seconds, and the flat wire coil with the same surface area goes off at 1.2 seconds. So this is the vapor production from the freshly saturated clapton coil. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. And that's actually good. It goes off in 2.2 seconds. So that's a pleasant surprise. And let's see how the flat wire coil does. So here we go. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. So, well, there you have it. It's just instantaneous. You see? 1. Ow! It just goes off when you push the button. Yeah, let's go upside and talk about it. So, to wrap this up, if you have a very advanced mod like this one, there shouldn't be any use for using this flat coil other than saving battery life and juice. It's still a bit slower, so if you start from cold, you see, even with this G class set at a powerful preheat, you still have to take one good draw from a clapton coil, and this is the flat wire coil on a mech mod. That coil is now at 0.44 ohm, and this one is at 0.55 ohms. And that's a very short and hard draw. You have to get a lot of air around this coil, and it's so responsive, it's so immediate, and the flavor is just as good as with the clapton coil. And the vapor is not hot. I mean, people fear that people might fear that vapor is much too hot, but it's actually cool. The vapor is hotter from a clapton coil, but with a slightly cooler vape, you get more flavors. You get the high notes, you get the middle notes of the flavor. So I prefer that. And well, regarding single coil RDAs or dual coils, I'll take that up in another video, I think, because it's a subject in and of itself. So this is my flat wire coil experience. I am last year I burned through 1,000 meters of wire trying to find the ultimate coil. And you know, like in this clapton here, there's a total of 4 meters of wire. It weighs 5 times as much, four times as much as this one. This is 9.5 centimeters of 22 gauge cancel, and it's like one Mississippi, and it just goes off. So and the surface area is identical. There's a lot more cotton in this one because the inner diameter is so much bigger than this one. So well, there you have it. Pick up your hammers and experiment a little. Cheers.